It
On
started
September
as something
18,
so
2026,
small that I almost
just
didn't
after
notice it.
10:30 p.m.,
A pair of tire
deputies
tracks
with the
cutting
Riverview
across
County
the far
Sheriff's
edge of my
Department
ranch,
responded
right
to a
along the
call
old
in a
cedar
quiet
fence line that
suburban
my
neighborhood.
grandfather had built
A
with his own
resident
hands
reported that
nearly
2
40 years
individuals
ago.
were acting
At
suspiciously
first, I assumed
near
it
a
was
corner
just
home,
someone who got lost
possibly
trying
looking
to
over
turn
a
around.
fence and checking
Living out
around the
here,
property.
you expect the
It
occasional
was the kind of
stranger
call
to wander
officers
onto your
handle
land
every
by
day.
mistake.
But
It
what
happens
happened
more than
next
people
would turn
think.
into a serious
But the next
constitutional
morning, the
debate
tire marks
about
were
your
there
rights,
again,
police
deeper this
authority,
time,
and how
fresh,
quickly an
like
ordinary
someone had
encounter
decided
can
that my
escalate.
private property
When
was suddenly
deputies
part
arrived,
of the county
they
road
observed
system.
3 people nearby.
By the end of the week,
a middle-aged
it wasn't
couple
just tire
walking
marks
slowly
anymore.
down the sidewalk,
It was a trail,
and an independent
a clean,
journalist known
worn-down
locally
dirt
for recording
path
police
stretching
activity.
from the paved
The
subdivision
couple later
entrance on the
explained
west
they were
side of
simply
my
out
ranch,
for a walk
all the way
because they were
through to
dealing
the
with
back
sleepless
access
nights
road that
following a
connected
car
to the
accident
highway.
earlier in the year.
Someone wasn't just
The
passing
journalist
through.
had been
They
filming
were
in the area
commuting through
and
my
was
land
documenting
like it was
the
their
police
personal
response when
shortcut.
deputies approached.
And the worst part? The
One of the
path ran
deputies
directly
asked where
through
they
the
were coming
pasture
from.
where my cattle
The couple
grazed every
calmly
morning.
explained that they lived
The
nearby
first time
and
I
were just
actually
walking.
saw her, it was
The
just
deputy
after
then
sunrise.
informed them that
I
someone
was out
had
checking
called
on
in
a broken
report
water trough
suggesting that
when a white
individuals
luxury
matching their
SUV
general
rolled
location had
casually
possibly
across my
been looking
field
into
like
a
it belonged
home
there.
or standing near
No
a fence
hesitation,
line.
no slowing down,
Importantly,
just
there was no
straight
clear
across my
suspect
land like she was
description
driving
given
through
over
a grocery
dispatch.
store
No
parking
clothing
lot.
description,
I waved
no
her
physical
down,
identifiers,
expecting an
no
apology.
confirmation
Instead,
of criminal
she rolled
activity
down
in
her
progress,
window halfway
just
and said,
a vague
"Oh,
suspicion.
good, you're here."
Despite
You really
that,
should consider
deputies
paving
told
this.
the group
It would
they
make
were
access
being
to the
detained
community
while
much
the
easier.
situation was investigated.
That was the moment I
Now
realized
here's where
this
this gets
wasn't a
important.
mistake. This
Under the
was
Fourth
HOA
Amendment,
Karen.
officers must have
She lived in the
reasonable
brand new
suspicion
housing
that a
development
person is
that had been
involved
built
in
right
criminal
next to my
activity
ranch the
before
previous
detaining
year.
them.
The same
Simply
development
being near
that had
the
sent me
location of a
letters
call
complaining
is not
about the
automatically
visual
enough.
impact of
Courts
my barn
across
and
the country
odor
have
concerns
repeatedly
of my
ruled that
livestock.
proximity alone,
Apparently now
without
they had
specific
decided the fastest
articulable
way to
facts
get to the highway
tying someone
was
to a
directly
crime
through my
does
pasture.
not justify detention.
I told her politely
The journalist
the first time
who was recording
that this
the
was private
interaction
land
calmly
and she couldn't
asked
drive
why
through
he was
here
being
anymore.
detained.
She
The
smiled
deputy
like I had
responded
just
that they
told
were
her the sky
investigating
was
a possible
green.
attempted burglary
Well,
or
actually,
trespassing
she said,
complaint.
the
When
HOA
asked if
board
he had
mentioned there's an
identification,
implied
the journalist
easement
stated that
here,
he
since
preferred
this path
not to provide
connects
it
two
and
public
offered
roads.
instead to verbally
An
identify
implied
himself.
easement?
The
On
deputy
land that
then
had been
told
in
him
my
that
family
failure
since
to identify
1978?
himself could result in
I didn't
arrest.
argue with her that
Now
day.
this is where
I
many
figured a
people
warning
get
would be
confused.
enough. But
Some
by the
states
next
have
week,
what are known
not
as
only was
stop
she
and
still
identify
using the
laws.
path,
So
but
even
her
in those
neighbors.
states, an
One
officer
sedan
must
turned
first
into
have a
3,
lawful detention
3 turned
supported
into
by
10.
reasonable
Morning
suspicion.
and evening, a
Without
steady stream
reasonable
of cars
suspicion,
cut
there is
straight
no
through my
obligation
ranch,
to identify
spooking my
yourself.
cattle, flattening
The journalist
sections of
maintained
grass,
a
and
calm
leaving
tone.
behind dust
He
clouds
did not
that
yell,
drifted all
he
the
did
way
not
up
threaten,
to my porch.
he did not attempt
That's
to
when my
flee.
grandfather
He
noticed.
simply stood firm
Now, my
on his
grandpa
understanding
isn't
of
the
his
kind of
rights
man who
and
raises
declined
his
to
voice.
produce physical
He's the kind who
identification.
listens more than he
At that
talks,
point,
watches
deputies
more than he
escalated.
moves.
They
But when
informed
he
him
saw
that if
that
he
line of
refused
cars
to identify
driving across
himself,
the land,
he could be
he had
taken to
spent
jail
decades
for obstruction.
working. Something in his
One
expression
deputy suggested that
changed.
if
He
necessary,
didn't yell,
they would bring
he didn't
equipment
storm
to
down
obtain
there.
his fingerprints.
He just asked me one
When
question.
he continued asserting
Did
that
you
he had
give
done
them
nothing
permission?
wrong and that he
I
was
told him
merely
no.
filming in a
And that's
public
when
space,
he nodded slowly
he was placed
and
in
said
handcuffs.
something I'll never forget.
The couple who had
Good,
been walking were
because
eventually
now they'd
cleared
made a
and allowed to
legal
leave
mistake.
after providing identification.
Over the next few days,
Deputies
Grandpa
acknowledged
started
they were
digging
not
through old
actively
filing
breaking
cabinets
into
in his
anything.
study.
They admitted
Land
they had not
surveys,
seen
property
criminal
maps,
behavior.
title records,
The only basis for the
documents that were
detention
older than I
appeared to be
was.
that they were
He
present
spread
in
them
the
across
general
the
area
dining
of the
table
complaint.
like pieces of a
The
puzzle.
journalist, however,
Tracing
was
boundary
arrested.
lines with his finger,
He was charged
checking
with
dates,
obstruction
comparing
without
signatures.
violence under local
Meanwhile,
statute.
HOA Karen
Let's
kept
pause and
driving through our
analyze
land
this.
like nothing had
The
changed.
Supreme Court has
Then
held
one
in multiple
afternoon,
cases
Grandpa
that
drove
police
into
may
town.
not detain someone
2 days
without
later, a
individualized
survey crew
reasonable
showed up.
suspicion
Bright
before
orange
detaining
flags
them.
started
The
appearing
key
along
word
the
there is
exact boundary of our
individualized.
property,
Suspicion
marking
must
every
be tied
legal
to a
inch of
specific
land that
person
belonged
belong to
based
us
on specific
and the
facts,
past,
not
so-called
generalized
community
assumptions.
shortcut,
In
every
this case,
foot of it
there was no
sitting
report
squarely
of a confirmed
inside our
break-in,
deeded
no
property
description
line.
tying
That
the
didn't stop
individuals
Karen.
to criminal
If
activity.
anything, it made
no
her more
observation of
confident.
tools,
A
forced
week later,
entry,
we
or
got a
flight.
letter from the
The
HOA's legal
individuals were
department
walking calmly.
claiming that
They
residents
stopped
had
to speak with
established
police. They
continuous
answered
use
questions.
access of the pathway.
The arrest
and were
appears
now
to hinge
requesting
entirely
formal
on
recognition
refusal
of an
to identify.
easement for community
But
benefit.
refusal to identify
Grandpa
is
read the
only
letter
unlawful
twice.
if the
Then he
detention
laughed,
itself
not loudly,
is lawful.
just enough to
If
let
the
me
initial
know that
detention
Karen
lacks
had no
reasonable
idea
suspicion,
what she had just
then
started,
any arrest flowing
because
from
what
that
she thought
detention
was
becomes
helping her
legally
case
questionable.
was actually building
Courts
ours.
across the country have
For the next
repeatedly
month,
ruled
Grandpa
that police cannot
documented
manufacture
everything.
probable
Every
cause
car,
by
every
criminalizing
crossing,
a person's
every time
refusal
someone
to cooperate
ignored the
during
private
an unlawful
property
stop.
signs we had posted along
Even
the
more
fence line.
concerning was the
He
tone
set
of
up trail
escalation.
cameras facing the
When
path.
law enforcement
He kept a
shifts
notebook
from
by the
investigating
window
a call
and wrote down
to
license
threatening
plates
arrest
like it was
for
part of his morning
non-compliance
routine.
without clear
Then
legal
one day,
grounds,
Grandpa told
constitutional
me it was
protections
time to
begin
put up
to
the
erode.
new gate.
And
Not
that's
across the
why
road,
this interaction
across the
matters.
shortcut,
because it
A
highlights
heavy
something
steel
many
ranch
Americans
gate
don't
went in
realize.
right at the subdivision
You do not
entry
lose
point,
your Fourth
locked,
Amendment protections
chained, and
simply
backed
because
by
someone
legally
makes a
filed
phone
notice
call about
of private boundary
A call
enforcement.
for service does
Karen
not
showed up
automatically
within the hour.
override
She got out of her
constitutional
SUV,
standards.
marched straight
At the
up to the
same time,
gate, and
this
demanded
situation
it be
also
opened
serves
immediately,
as a reminder of
claiming
how
we were
delicate these
obstructing
encounters
community
can be.
access.
One
Grandpa
wrong
stepped
move,
onto the
one
porch,
raised
calm
voice,
as ever,
one
and
sudden
said 6
gesture,
words
and the
that
situation
changed
could have turned
everything.
dangerous.
This land has
Instead,
never
the journalist
been public.
remained composed.
2
He
weeks
kept
later,
his hands
the
visible.
HOA
He did
filed
not
a
physically
complaint,
resist.
and that's
He allowed the
when
legal
Grandpa made
system
his
to
move.
handle the dispute
Because while
rather
Karen
than
had been
escalating
busy
it on the
driving through
street.
our ranch,
That
Grandpa
composure
had been
may
filing
ultimately be what
paperwork,
determines how this
legal
case
paperwork,
unfolds in court.
The kind that doesn't just
For
stop
viewers over
shortcuts,
50,
the
this
kind
case
that
likely
stops
feels
lawsuits.
familiar.
By
Many
the time the
Americans
hearing
grew
date
up
arrived,
believing that if
the
you simply
HOA believed
comply,
they had a strong
everything will be
case
fine.
based on
And
repeated
often
usage.
that is true.
But what they
But the
didn't
Constitution
know, what
does
Karen
not require
definitely
blind
didn't know,
compliance.
was that
It
every single
requires
drive
lawful
across our
authority.
property had
There
been
is a
recorded,
difference.
documented,
The core
and
legal
legally
question in
framed
this case
as
will likely
trespass
be simple.
following posted
Did deputies
notice,
have
which
reasonable
meant their
suspicion to
continuous
detain
use
them
argument
in the first
wasn't
place?
proof of access.
If the answer
it
is
was
no,
proof of
then the
violation.
obstruction charge becomes
When the
difficult
judge
to
saw the
justify.
footage, the signage,
If the answer is
the
yes,
certified
then
survey,
refusal to
and the
identify
timeline
could
of written
potentially
warnings,
support
the
the arrest.
entire case
That
shifted
determination
in a matter of
now
minutes,
rests with the
because
courts.
Grandpa hadn't just
Regardless of
protected the
outcome,
ranch.
this
He
interaction
protected it
serves
the
as
right
a powerful
way.
reminder
And
that
by the end of the
constitutional
hearing,
rights
the
are not
HOA's request
theoretical.
for easement
They are
wasn't
tested
just
in
denied.
ordinary
They were
neighborhoods
ordered to
on
cease
quiet
all
streets
access
during
immediately.
routine calls that
Karen
escalate
never used the
unexpectedly.
shortcut again,
And it shows
and that
how
dirt
quickly
path,
a peaceful
it's grass
evening walk
now.
can turn
Exactly
into handcuffs
the way
and
Grandpa
criminal charges.
wanted it.
As always, the courtroom, not the roadside, is where these disputes are meant to be resolved. Let me know in the comments, do you believe officers had reasonable suspicion here? Should someone be required to show ID just because they are near a reported incident? Or should proximity alone never justify detention? If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe for more real-world constitutional analysis. And remember, knowing your rights is not about creating conflict. It's about understanding the balance between liberty and law enforcement authority. Thank you for watching.